Okay, I had some coffee. This is part 4, and I've got my bathrobe on because I'm freezing. And I can't see. Okay, so I went back to school, and I brought my tarot cards with me, which was weird, but I did. I brought my tarot cards with me. And I told my roommate in college, would it be okay if I put a sign outside of our door that said, I read tarot cards for like $2 or $3 a reading? And she's like, what? Are you okay? Are you all right? And I'm like, yeah, I just want to make some extra money for cigarettes. And she's like, okay, but that's not even very much money. And I'm like, and I remember thinking to myself, I remember saying this to my friend, that as long as I didn't charge too much money for it, it wouldn't be bad. What? Where did I even get that from? So I started reading tarot cards at college. I probably should have been studying or something. I was a psych major, so there must have been some kind of psych paper I could be doing, but instead I thought that I had all this free time to read tarot cards at night. Now, if that doesn't show you that I was possessed, I don't know what would, because that's crazy town. That's nuts. Okay, so anyway, so people started coming to me for tarot card readings. And I met my future husband at school, and he told me that there was this girl on his floor. We're going to call her Tabitha. And Tabitha said that when she saw me, she saw a demon behind me. So she didn't want anything to do with me. And I'm like, what? That's what? And he said, well, she comes from a long line of white witches that started way back in Ireland. And she says that you got a demon behind you. And I was very upset by that. But I believed her because I hadn't told anyone about what happened to me. So I was like, okay, so it's followed me to school. And I knew that. Like, some part of my brain knew that something terrible had happened to me and that I was not right. But then I wasn't myself, so I guess I didn't care. Like, when I wasn't myself, I wasn't thinking that. But there were times where I'd be like, something's not right. I'm not okay, Okay, so I started reading tarot cards at school. And when people would ask me, why are you doing that? I'd be like, like I said, just to make some extra money for cigarettes. Which makes no sense. Really makes no sense. Cigarettes were cheaper then, but they weren't that cheap. Like, none of this makes any sense. When I tell it, it sounds insane. So, people would come to me for readings, and I tried to schedule them. I had my phone number on the outside of the door, and I tried to schedule them for nighttime or whatever. So they'd come over, or when my roommate had a class, I think that's when I did it. So anyway, one time in particular, this guy came, and the minute I saw him, I was like, well, he's not here to get a reading. He just wants to hit on you. So I knew that somehow. And I was like, well, I'm just going to do his reading. And I started doing his reading, and I knew somehow that his father had beaten his mother, that he had a lot of like psychological issues with that. He had a lot of anger issues with women from a tarot card. Okay. And he was like totally freaked out. He was like how did you know that? And I was like, I started to shake a little. I was like, I don't know. I don't know how I know. And I was really kind of scared. Part of me was scared by the fact that I knew all this stuff about him. And then he said, I really didn't really even want a reading. I just wanted to like date you or ask you out or something. And I was like, oh yeah, I knew that too. And he's like, well, of course you did. And then I was like, just very like, trying to help him. I was like, listen, you need to get therapy for all that stuff that happened to you. Psych major, right? I was like, promise me that you'll go and get some therapy. And no, I'm not going to date you. And he's like, I don't think I want to date you. Like, now, he goes, because you probably know everything about me, and that's kind of scary. So he's like, yeah, I would rather just be friends with you, honestly. He's like, because you're kind of scary. And I'm like, yeah. So, I remember thinking, excuse me, that was pretty crazy. So he left, and I want to say too, like, what my personality has stayed pretty much the same. I've always been a very cautious person, especially around men. And what was I thinking having a guy that I did not know come to my room without any other people around to read tarot cards? That's another, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm really allergic to the greens that I just took down from Christmas. And I've been coughing. Okay. That's just a sign right there that I would do something like that. I would never do that. Not then and not now. I would never do that. I would never put myself in a vulnerable position like that where somebody could I would never do that. And anyone who knows me knows I would never do that. Have a guy come over without anyone being there. What? That I didn't know? No. So anyway, like I said, I met my future husband at school. We were friends at the time, and I confided in him that that I had this demonic possession thing happen to me. And he was totally freaked out, but very supportive and really wonderful about it. And